done on this live stream is subject to the Florida Public Records request. Uh, so we're going live now.
All right, Sherry, we are live. Or I'm sorry, Michael, maybe.
Yes. All right, good morning to everyone. This is our district committee meeting for our ELA, grade 6 through 8, to consider the materials that were reviewed for our ELA adoption. And so we're going to, at this time, turn it over to our CAS team member that will be presenting the pertinent information and data and the information relative to the live vote that will be taking place this afternoon that led us to this point. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to Ms. Sherry Gabriel for her presentation.
All right, good morning, everybody. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And perfect. Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Good morning. I'm here today representing the CAS team and sharing this information with you. I want to begin by saying thank you for everyone on this call who put in the energy and the effort to review, submit feedback on those possible instructional resources being considered. Thank you for your time and attention in ensuring that our St. Johns County School District students get the best materials available. And as Michael shared, all of our resources were on the state's approved list. For today's meeting, we will be looking at our purpose today, is to discuss the results of the school level reviews and rankings and to finalize the district committee vote on the instructional resources to be submitted for consideration to the school board for adoption. So for this review process, St. Johns County School District teachers, families, and community members reviewed 3 instructional resources for consideration for the adoption. These 3 resources are Florida Study Sync, My Perspectives Florida, and Think Circa Core. When the school year began, we participated in a focused review where community members and school committees had the opportunity to review the resources and provide feedback through open-ended feedback and through a critical analysis with a rubric. We are first going to share with you the portions of the feedback on the 3 resources that emphasize the strength of each of the resources. We had so many great comments for these resources. For Florida Study Sync, the team felt that this was by far the best curriculum, which aligns to standards and brings instruction to a higher level. My Perspectives Florida, the team liked the structure of the resources and felt the variety of reteaching and enrichment materials was especially helpful to teachers. And for Think Circa Core, it was intuitive, varied resources for students and teachers that support effective learning of the standards. The open-ended feedback from the focus review also included some statements that emphasized areas of need for the resources. And for Florida Study Sync, some of the feedback was it is not the most student-friendly resource. Teachers felt it would require supplementation, but they liked the text options. My Perspectives Florida, it was adequate, but not intuitive, not varied. The formatting is confusing for students and teachers, so are some of the texts. And Think Circa Core, the team determined that the primary method of utilizing the Circa program was digitally based, and this is not realistic for daily use in schools. So we appreciate all the feedback from all of you and your teams. We rolled out a rubric at the beginning of this process, and it was used by our stakeholders to guide the critical analysis of each of the resources, including 3 main components: content, learning, and presentation. Within content, feedback was shared for the alignment with the best standards and the text. For learning, it was teacher instruction and student learning. And for the final component, presentation, it was looking at the teacher side, and it had items that directed the analysis for that resource, as well as items that directed the analysis to the student side of the resource. So we are going to see the overall scores given for each resource for that section of the rubric. So our first category is ELA Best Standards. And for this category, let me just start with the overall graphs that we're going to look at. Florida Study Sync, you will see, is brown. So each graph will represent Florida Study Sync using brown. Green is going to represent My Perspectives Florida, and the blue will represent Think Circa Core. The first category is our ELA Best Standards. The rubric guided evaluators to focus on how that curriculum aligned with the state adopted benchmarks, including the clarifications, grade level expectations, and learning outcome. In this category, the ELA Best Standards score for Florida Study Sync is 371. My Perspectives came in second place in this category with 361, and Think Circa scores came in at third with 312. For content, this category, the rubric guided evaluators to focus on how the curriculum provided students with high quality, accurate, and objective text. So it was really about the variety of genres being presented. These texts were appropriate, being looked at for the appropriate rigor for the grade level and supporting students in accessing the full depth of the benchmark. So for this category, for content of text, the score for Florida Study Sync was 315. My Perspectives was second in this category with 282, and Think Circa was in third place with 245. The next category, or the third category, is learning with a focus on teacher instruction. And in this category, our evaluators were asked to ensure the curriculum was written to provide instruction in a way that is teachable, learnable, doable, and accessible in practice. We also asked them to look at the instructional practices being research-based and aligned to effective reading instruction. For this category, Florida Study Sync had 260. My Perspectives Florida was second place in this category with 252, and Think Circa core scores were in third place with 193. So the fourth rubric was focused on the student side of the resource under learning, and this guided evaluators on how the curriculum provided varied opportunities for students to demonstrate their path of learning along the way to mastery using both formative and summative means. Florida Study Sync was 150, My Perspectives 148, so we can see on the graph they were very close, and Think Circa was 105. The fifth rubric category was presentation for the teacher. This rubric guided evaluators to focus on how the curriculum is organized in a way that allowed for the systematic and explicit instruction to allow for efficient and easy use for all educators. In this category, we can see where My Perspective score actually was first with 293. Study Sync was in second place with 288, and Think Circa was in third place with 224. The final rubric category is presentation for students, and here the focus was on how the curriculum is designed to support student learning through a clear structure, logical organization, and accessible presentation. We asked them to look at how the materials were easy for students to use, to navigate, understand, and did it have appropriately paced lessons, clear directions, and engaging format. Florida Study Sync was at 200. My Perspective score was at 184, and Think Circa was at 140. So that is it for the rubric category. So we're looking at the overall score, so the summary score. And with this, the bar chart shows that the summary of the total scores Florida Study Sync earned the highest score at 1,584. My Perspectives was second place with 1,521, and Think Circa was in the third place resource at 1,219. So this category is the overall recommendation. So looking at our highly recommended category, Florida Study Sync received the highest rating with 41.2%. So this is out of percent distribution. My Perspectives had a 31.3, and Think Circa was a rating of 25% under highly recommended. In the recommended category, we see that Study Sync is at 35.3. My Perspectives is at a rating of 50%, and Think Circa was at 18.7. All three received very similar scores here in the somewhat recommended category. And interesting to point out, My Perspectives did not have any ratings for the do not recommend. So for final rankings, school level committees conducted meetings where final decisions were made, and the school committees were able to review the resources, review their feedback submitted during the focus review, and revisit it. And schools submitted one final ranking for each of these resources. 18 schools provided a ranking by product in EdCredible during the final evaluation. Of the 18 schools, 8 selected Study Sync as their first choice, 6 selected My Perspectives, Florida, and 4 selected Think Circa. Of the 18 schools, 9 selected Study Sync as their second choice, 8 selected My Perspectives, Florida as their second choice, with 1 school selecting Think Circa as their second choice. And for the third place choices, we have Study Sync receiving 1 vote. My Perspectives was at 4, and Think Circa had 13 votes. All right. So I think at that point, we are ready for any questions or comments.
Allison, do we have any questions or hands raised or comments in the chat?
No comments in the chat and no hands are raised.
Well, thank you so much. And Michael, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sherry. Wonderful job on the presentation of the data and the pertinent information. At this time, if there are no further questions, we're going to move forward to our live vote. Allison will launch the poll on my cue. Just know that if you are on here twice for your school, there are 2 representatives, only 1 representative needs to vote for your per school site. Again, only voting members, that's the parent or the point of contact for the school. All right. So we just want to make that very clear. Also, just know that this is also a part of the Florida Public Records request as well. So at this time, we're going to have Allison launch the poll for our live vote.
All right, we had 41% or 7 out of 17 for McGraw-Hill Study Sync. We had 35% or 6 out of 17 for Savas My Perspectives. And we had 24% or 4 out of 17 for Think Circa.
All right, thank you for those results. As it is our practice in our district, the top 2 will be moving forward to our district for consideration. And so just know that both McGraw-Hill and Savas will be put before the school district. And our top choice is McGraw-Hill. Second choice is Savas Learning Company. All right. So If there's nothing else, we're going to talk about next steps and what's going to happen next in our instructional materials adoption process. So later this week, we're going to post the final selections that were chosen on our district webpage. The links to this information is going to also be provided on the school web pages. This gives everyone a chance to see the final selections that will be submitted to the school board for adoption consideration. Access to the online materials will remain available on EdCredible, and print resources may be viewed at our offices at 3015 Lewis Speedway. Um, Important to note that a publicly noticed meeting will be held in January where our teams will share the choices with our school board. It's also a chance for board members in the community to hear more about the materials, and it gives our parents and the public the opportunity to share their thoughts with their school board representatives prior to the formal vote. We expect the school board to vote on the submitted resources during their meeting scheduled for January 13th. Public comment will be available at this meeting as well. And if the resources are approved by the members, we will post a final list on the district and school websites. If the materials are approved by the school board, there is a 30-day required contestation period that will end on February 13th. If anyone wants to contest the adoption, they'll need to do so before the deadline. And if a contestation is filed, we'll schedule a hearing to review it shortly after the contestation period ends. So thank you, first of all, to the Instructional Resources and Media Services team, curriculum leads, parents, and community members for participation in this adoption. And we are grateful for your efforts and participation. This concludes our meeting. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your